Hello, welcome back to Learn Energy Healing. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about implants and parasites just before we get stuck into the video of actually removing them. And what better way I thought of actually going through my story of how I came across them and how I started healing and removing them. So essentially I learnt healing when I was in New Zealand, and I got pretty good at it and started getting quite excited about it. And obviously, like a lot of healers, I started to hear about things that I hadn't heard about before, and one of them was implants. And I came across lots of different ideas about them from other healers and other psychics who talked about how they were limiting people by being in their energy field. And of course, being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I wanted to learn about this and improve my healing and help people more. So I bought into the idea of implants and I started reading about them, watching videos about them, looking at pictures of people who'd drawn them. And so I started to try and look for them myself. And sure enough, after quite a short time, I started to try and sense with my hands to see if I could touch them and see them with my inner vision as well. And I started to remove them using the techniques that I already knew, including the techniques that I have been teaching so far on this channel. And I found that, yeah, you could remove these things that everyone was talking about and that people did feel a lot better when I removed them. And so I got more and more into it. And quite soon I was one of the more well-known implant removal healers on the internet. If you would have searched in etheric implant removal, I would have been right there, first or second on whatever search engine you looked at back in the day. And I was involved with lots of different articles and published lots of different things. So I got quite well known about it, and I had a lot of people coming to me wanting to remove implants. And as time went on and I got to know more and more different people and work with different people, I discovered more and more different implants, and I would read about other healers and psychics talking about different implants I hadn't heard of or seen before, and I started seeing them myself. Or customers would come to me with a particular problem and they would describe how it looks. And so I would think, oh, there's a new one. So I started writing more and more about different implants and different effects that they had and how people got better when I removed them. And as time carried on, I started thinking, why is it that there seems to be more and more and more of them? Why is it that there seems to be more and more complex ones? Why is it that people are starting to say that either that the implants come back after being removed, or that they have some mechanism stopping them from being removed, like a booby trap? Why is it that so many different psychics were talking about implants that you can't remove? You know, people starting to talk about archontic implants and all sorts of other complex implants, saying that, you know, something else has to happen first, or, you know, some sort of structure of the matrix has to change before they can be removed. And I started thinking, why is this situation with implants getting worse? Why is there seeming to be more of them? And why are people starting to have more and more problems with them? You know, if we are creator beings and we're waking up, supposedly, becoming more aware, why is it that we're creating more of a problem? So this is when I started playing around with the ideas of, well, are they real or not? Am I making them real? Am I, as a creator being, making this situation worse for the rest of the spiritual community? And I started playing around with the idea that maybe they're not so significant, especially some of the ones that other people were making significant. The more serious ones, the archontic ones, the ones that people said have booby traps or that couldn't be removed. And I started realizing, playing around with my ideas, questioning things. Is it really true what these other healers and psychics are saying? Is it true what I've been saying all along about them even? And so I started realizing that, you know, they're actually quite easy to remove, and especially with people who don't make such a fuss about them. it was much easier to remove implants from them. And I started really realizing more and more about the alternative mainstream media, which I've written about quite a bit. About the fact that the mainstream alternative media is just as controlled as the mainstream media. There's a lot of fear mongering. There's definitely a lot of the three-letter organizations, if you know what I mean, in influencing what goes on in the alternative media, making things seem worse than they are. And of course, if you want to control the planet, then you are going to make people more fearful by any means necessary to keep them controlled. So a lot of the stuff out there about implants, they make it much more significant than they actually are, really, because if you truly realize, not just cognitively, but you realize fully throughout your whole being that you are a created being and that implants are a creation, and especially because they exist on the astral, they're not so real as a physical object. I'm not going to suddenly change this pen into an elephant or a flower just by thinking about it. But on the astral, where we consider it to be not quite so real, it's much easier to change things. It's much easier to dissolve an implant or remove an implant. So as I started writing more about that side of things and playing around with beliefs that are common in the alternative media and started writing about it, I started noticing I wasn't quite so popular anymore on the search engines. I noticed my website was, lots of attempts to be hacked, my website, lots and lots of different things happening there. I noticed how search engines would start making it harder for certain results to come up if you search for certain keywords. So yes, I won't talk too much about the alternative media and shadow banning and all of that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's been basically my journey with implants. Me thinking, like a lot of people out there, that just because someone is a healer or a psychic, and if they've been involved with it for a long time, that they have all the answers and all the truths. And of course, me taking on those truths, making implants significant and more serious than they really should be. And it was a whole learning process coming to the stage where I am now, where I actually teach much more when people are ready for it, that, they're only as bad as you make them out to be. So along with the implant removal process I do with my work, I try and teach as much as I can. Sometimes it is a case of removing an implant because they're not ready yet to question things and see a different perspective. And so removing it is just the easiest way of giving them ease. And then maybe at a later date, they might be better suited to seeing things from a bit different point of view. And another thing that I believe is really important to mention here is that a lot of humanity are one answer only people. What I mean by that is that they believe that there's only one truth. And if you've ever studied anything to do with the astral and the spiritual world, there is no one truth. So when I say that implants don't inherently exist, and that they are only as bad of a problem as you believe them to be, a lot of people out there who experience implants or parasites or any other issue in the astral world seem to have the impression that I don't take them serious, like I don't believe them, that maybe it's just something they've made up in their own mind. So I'm here to say that, no, I understand you. I was there. I experienced implants being a restriction myself. And I've come across many, many people who've experienced implants being a restriction and having them be removed and having such relief afterwards. So I know that if you are experiencing implants, that they are real. Not that it's some reality that's stupid and you're an idiot. If they're real for you, they are real for you. And at the same time, they are not real. So a lot of people have problems with me saying that they don't inherently exist and that they think I don't believe them and therefore that I can't help them. I can. because I can tune into that reality. I can remove them for you, help you remove them for you if you prefer that. At the same time as me realizing that they don't inherently exist because they are a creation. I hope that makes sense. So bear those points in mind. The more you act playfully, curiously, like a child would when you come across implants, the easier it will be to work with them. And of course, the other trick is convincing the person you're working on that, you know, they're only as bad as they make out to be, in whatever words that might serve them better. So yeah. So the next thing to talk about is how might you come across implants? How might you see them yourself? Because everyone sees them differently, just like anything else in the astral. And do you need to see them? Do you need to understand implants to help people? So let's start with the first thing, how you might come across them. So you may be similar to me in my experience, where you may have read about them and get interested in them and feel that you want to help people or simply help yourself. You may read about them and wonder, oh, might I have an implant of some sort, of some description, mechanical, biological, SPE, archontic, whatever it may be. Do I have one of those? Is it really limiting me? And you might start to question that and may want to look into that and want to play around with that idea of removing it and feeling better afterwards. Or, like I say, helping others do so. And so you may, if you read the descriptions of what they look like or what they feel like, how you can come across them, then you can start looking for that yourself. So for example, there are implants that are kind of like a parasite. So it's kind of like a parasite that holds a certain vibration to limit you in a certain way. So if you know that it looks a bit like an octopus, for example, which are quite a common shape that people describe, you know, like a body with lots and lots of legs or tentacles, see if you can feel that with your hand, if you've practiced with the techniques I've shown before with feeling. So look for it, see if you can feel the body of it, see if you can feel the tentacles or the legs, and you may come across them that way. Same with the vision. If you know what it looks like, you may, you know, say to yourself, okay, I want to see only that through my internal vision and see what you find. Maybe you imagine a can of red paint that only sticks to implants, and just imagine spraying someone's aura and just seeing where the paint sticks. And then you might come across them that way. And of course, you don't have to see them exactly the same way. I'll get more into that later. The other way that you may come across them is simply by accident. It may be a bit like some of my healer friends. There was a group of healers that we met up quite regularly when I was in New Zealand so that we could practice on each other and learn from each other. And I do remember people, you know, just scanning through someone's aura and coming up against something and thinking, what is that? And maybe someone else will say, oh, that's an implant. Or maybe they might question themselves, oh, is that the implant that other people are talking about? I wonder what that might be. So there's lots of different ways you might bump into them. Do you have to, though? Usually people only start sensing implants when they start questioning, is that an implant? Or they start reading about it, and especially if they start to believe that they really are significant and maybe it is a good thing to learn and get into to help people. But do you really need to do that? And the short answer is no. With our group of healers and many, many other healers that I've come across and I've watched do healing, from my perspective at the time, they were removing a very significant implant. And when I go and talk to them later, they said, oh, really? Okay, I just thought it was an energy block. So from their point of view, they just thought that they were removing an energy block. They didn't see it as an implant. They didn't feel or see or seem in any way like an implant, like some sort of parasite to them. It just felt like a block, and they were just doing what they normally do and removed things away. And there is quite a lot to be said about keeping things simple. So a bit like that acronym in America back in the 80s, KISS, keep it simple, sucker. So sometimes the best healers are the ones that don't delve into these sorts of subjects. They keep it really simple, feel with the hand for whatever they feel is a bit dense, not moving very well, remove it, and just do that. And they do amazing healings. Sometimes if you delve into the realm of implants and parasites and other crazy things that people talk about, you start to make it more significant than it is, and you start to limit your healing ability, because you start to say to yourself, oh, that's quite a serious thing here, and therefore the higher vibrational energy doesn't flow through you quite so well in order for you to perform healing. So there are pros and cons to delving into these sorts of things. You don't need to go into it. But hopefully me talking this way can help you understand someone who might come up to you and say that they want you to remove an implant. It might help in that way. So at least you understand what they're saying, that you understand that, you know, they're not crazy. That's just their reality. That's their perception. And you don't have to necessarily see it exactly the same way as them. But knowing that it is real for them can help you have compassion for them, at least. And whether you decide to use a technique how you would always use it, or whether you wish to delve into how they see it so you can remove it from their point of view, doesn't really matter. It's going to be effective each way. Okay, so I think I've covered most of the things I wanted to talk about with implants. There's a lot that I can say. There's lots of different descriptions I can get into, lots of different names of different implants, but I don't feel it's necessary. If you do want to delve into that a little bit more, have a look at my website. I still have pages from many, many years ago when I viewed things in a different way. And I also have descriptions of how my viewpoints have changed. And I do include, you know, descriptions of common implants, different types of implants, where they exist, why some might look technical and why some might look more biological. So if you really want to look into that kind of thing, have a look at my website. Have a look at the implant removal page, and there'll be lots of links from there. If there's any questions, any concerns, leave them in the comments below, or of course email me, especially if you want my help. And of course I'm happy to teach you how to remove them yourself and question your beliefs on them especially. If you would like to support this channel, please do like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.